Welcome back, everybody. The Talk Critic here with another episode. Real quick, if you like my channel, like, subscribe, do what you have to do to get more content from me. That being said, real quick, just a shout out, because today's going to be a longer video. A shout out to a current subscriber I have. I'm going to leave their name, private, but I got reached out to on Instagram, and they wanted to collab, and basically were appreciating me for my channel, and apparently I've been following it for years, and I see you. Thank you for that so much. I'm going to keep your name a secret, but you know who you are. I appreciated that. That helps me, and that makes me want to make more videos, even if it's just one comment. Honestly, it's a good time. I just like to talk about movies. So thank you for that. I see you. The collaboration probably sometime in the future, but still fantastic. So today we're going to be looking at my TV and my TV series and movie collection. Now, that being said, this collection is nowhere near some of the people on YouTube. You could find thousands and thousands. No, these are just my specific tastes with movies. This is probably going to be about a 30-minute episode. I'm hoping to wrap it up faster, but we'll see and get a gauge on how time goes. But yeah, I have never done a video like this. That being said, though, like 20 or 25 of my movies are currently up north at my parents' house. Kind of the movies I didn't really want to take with me to my college town, So I don't have all of my collection, but I have the most important ones that are dear to me with me now. So I guess that has to stand for something. So we're just going to get into this because this is going to be a long video. I'm just going to go through each of these movies quickly, give my 2 cents maybe on each. I can't milk it entirely, but you know what I'm saying. So we're just going to get right on this because this is a bigger case. This is the Stanley Kubrick Masterpiece Collection. I got this for my birthday a couple years ago. Parents, thank God, they love me. Collector's edition kind of thing. It's on Amazon right now. I think you can still pick it up. It was limited. I don't know if you can anymore, but comes with amazing classics, of course, The Shining, Dr. Strangelove, 2001: A Space Odyssey, A Clockwork Orange, Barry Lyndon, all of his Eyes Wide Shut, all of his classics. To the teeth. This is an excellent collection. It comes with a little art book as well. Pull that out. And of course, you got the disc on the other side of that. Right here, I don't know if you can tell, I got an oil painting from this exact collection. But yeah, this is wonderful. Of course, Kubrick is one of my favorite directors, so I am 100% going to own all his movies if I can. I'm missing Spartacus. I know that for a fact. So, oh my God, I have so much to go through. Let's get on this side. There's no specific order to this video, just throwing that out loud. No loves or hates. If you want to know my top 10 favorite films of all time, I have a video for that posted on my channel. Just go find it. It was recent, so you can find it pretty well. So we're just going to get right through it. So a lot of you don't know my favorite TV show of all time, and that happens to be True Detective. True Detective Season 1, that is, not 2. Season 1 is some of the best television writing, acting, you name it, I have ever seen. And to that is my favorite television series of all time. Throwing that out. I know Westworld was there at one time. I also have True Detective Season 2. It was given to me by a friend. A good season. It would have been an amazing season had it not been stacked up against True Detective Season 1. That was kind of the downside. And of course, Westworld Season 1, which I think is far better than Season 2. The story got a little convoluted, which kind of sucks because they had something going. But, I still appreciate it quite a bit. Let's get some good movies here. Okay, so of course, right out of the gate, I gotta have Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now. The production hell is what they call it. Collector's edition. Martin Sheen, Marlon Brando, just a classic film to own if you don't have it. One of my personal favorites. I believe this is number 4 on my top 10 film list. I could be wrong on that, but it's called The Lighthouse. Directed by Robert Eggers. He did The Witch. Honestly, another solid, amazing psychological horror film, which I'm a sucker for. That's my go-to. Midsommar, a lot of people will disagree with me on this. I think the camera work and just the entire atmosphere is unique to its own name. It's brutal, it's violent, but there's some peace and levity there, which is kind of funny. Let the festivities begin. This is a very controversial film, as a matter of fact. Love or hate that movie. I've never really seen it in between. Ari Aster, same director here, Hereditary. One of my favorite horror films ever made. Wonderfully done. Can't say too much about it. I've already given my movie review on it. Ryan Gosling's Drive. Fun fact about the director of this film, he also did a Neon Demons, another Gosling film, but fun fact, he's colorblind, and that's why his films look so unique. But I believe out of the director's work, Neon Demons fantastic, but this is his best. Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, I believe this is the Swedish version. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong on that. But honestly, fantastic film. I almost prefer this over the Daniel Craig version. just because it's a little bit more raw. I like Daniel Craig's character better than I do the character in this one. But I don't know, this is such a unique story. The book's fantastic. If you haven't read the books, please check it out. Kind of a lower budget Western horror genre. It's called Bone Tomahawk with Kurt Russell. Wonderful film. Well, it's violent, I'm not going to tell you, but the shock and awe in this film, the horror, the lower budget, it works. I love it. Please check that out if you get the chance. If you're a lower budget horror film fan, Bone Tomahawk. One of my favorite thrillers of all time, Nightcrawler, and in my opinion, Jake Gyllenhaal's finest performance next to Prisoners. Wonderful. He gave me Joker vibes from time to time, but I still thought he was a fantastic protagonist, antagonist. I don't know what you want to name it. Up next, we have Jordan Peele's Get Out. Now, unfortunately, I don't have Us, but I believe Get Out. Us is fantastic, but I think Get Out is a far superior film. It tackles, race and cultural aspects in ways that most films can't do it. They don't force it by any means. They just go right in and hit you in the face. But it's a wonderful film. Fantastic cinematography. It knocked it out of the park, and he almost established himself as his very own Hitchcock. Not even copying and pasting Hitchcock, just doing his own thing, which is what I think every filmmaker should do. Just wonderful film. Get Out. Check it out. That rhymed. Speaking of Hitchcock, Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. I have to own it. My favorite film of all time, if you haven't checked out that YouTube video, but honestly wonderful. You can't beat the writing, acting. It, ahead of its time and to this day, stands the test of time as one of the greats. North by Northwest, another Alfred Hitchcock film. Good friend of mine, Emma, dropped a name. Did not drop a name. I'm bad about that. Anyways, if she's watching this video, she knows. Yeah. Fantastic film. Camera work is on par. Check it out. Up next, we got some Paul Thomas Anderson, which I don't know if any of you know. I love him as a film. He's on my top 5 favorite directors. Inherent Vice with Joaquin Phoenix, Josh Brolin. Really a goofy stoner. I would call it a thriller, but it's got some very comedic vibes to it, but it's still an overall fantastic film. Daniel Day-Lewis, There Will Be Blood. His greatest performance of his career. And if you know anything about Daniel Day-Lewis, you know that he is one of the greatest, if not the greatest actor known to cinema, in my opinion. You put him next to Marlon Brando any day of the week, I will give you Day-Lewis 9 times out of 10. Wonderful film, career-defining move, which is funny because he was already established as one of the greats by the time that movie came out, which is funny. The Master, another Paul Thomas Anderson masterpiece. Like what I did there. Honestly, this is Joaquin Phoenix's best performance, and if you don't believe me, please go check this film out. He really establishes himself as a serious... I mean, he always has been that great, but this truly proves that he is one of the greats. I love his performance in Joker, don't get me wrong, but I believe The Master is more original, its own unique. He does things that you could possibly not fathom as an actor in this film. Looked like a truly difficult performance to give, and he nailed it. And right now we have Denis Villeneuve's Prisoners. He also did Blade Runner 2049. Sicario, correct me if I'm wrong. Prisoners is one of the... I actually just got this today. I picked it up, found it for like $4. It was amazing. Thank my girlfriend. Wonderful film. One of the greatest crime thrillers I've ever seen put to film. And one of Jake Gyllenhaal and Hugh Jackman's finest performances. I think this is Hugh Jackman's best film performance next to Logan. Logan's amazing, don't get me wrong, but this is just on another level. We're going to get through these. Okay. Up top here, we got some TV shows that a friend of mine gave me. I have not checked these out yet. Season 1 of Heroes. I don't know anything about it. Haven't checked it out. Let me know in the comments if it's any good. If it's good, I'll give it a watch. I have also Season 1 and 2 of CW's The Flash. Don't know if I'm going to watch it because I'm about tired of watching CW superhero / DC shows. I think they milk it. I think most of them are just cheap and terrible. But I might give it a watch because I've heard people who normally hate CW love these. Now, don't get me wrong. CW's Supernatural, love it. Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow. You know, about Halloween time, I'd say in terms of Halloween, other than Scream, this is probably your perfect Halloween movie. It's perfect for any kind of occasion, horror related. It just fits the tone really well. And speaking of horror, Jaws, to this day, is one of the greatest quote unquote horror films ever made. I'm never going to forget my grandmother showing me this when I was younger. It's amazing because this film does things with water that you wouldn't believe. I didn't want to swim after I watched that. It was terrifying. Wow, I got a couple Martin Scorsese films coming up. Shutter Island with Leonardo DiCaprio. Really good mind-boggler. Probably if you've seen it, a wonderful film. We have The Departed, which is a pretty all-star cast. You got Matt Damon, Leonardo DiCaprio, Mark Wahlberg, Jack Nicholson, I think Martin Sheen's in this as well. Wonderful film, wonderful. It really handles its multiple layered like dialogue. Oh my god, it's just out of this world. Love it. Up next we have Casino with Joe Pesci, Sharon Stone, and Robert De Niro. Yeah, Robert De Niro. Scorsese flick, a crime thriller. You can't really go wrong with Scorsese when it comes to crime. You got Taxi Driver, Goodfellas. Basically, the king of crime, in my opinion. Wonderful, wonderful director in that department. Gangs of New York, a highly, highly underrated film, especially from Daniel Day-Lewis. I mean, DiCaprio and Cameron Diaz are also at the top of their game. But I think Daniel Day-Lewis, he kind of reminds me of like the perfect Captain Hook, although I wouldn't ever think he'd take a role like that. But Gangs of New York, really one-of-a-kind movie. Up next, I got a movie pack kind of thing, Wolf of Wall Street. Not much to say about that movie other than it's wonderful. It's over the top, nonsense, crazy, you name it, but it's still a good time. Requiem for a Dream. Honestly, I can't give too much about this movie other than the visuals are amazing and the use of drug use in between. Unique. There's nothing like this film out there. If you haven't checked it out, if you're into like psychedelic films of any kind, worth a watch, and that's Requiem for a Dream. How to get Titanic. I had a professor of mine say, if you haven't seen Titanic, I don't need to talk much about this movie. Spoiler alert, the boat sinks. Basically, one of my old communication professors says, and I quote, that is a sorry-ass movie. I loved it. I cried when I was younger watching it. It's just how it was. I remember my grandma and grandpa, they'd had it, like my brother and I hide our blankets during the notorious drawing scene. Yeah, my blankets had holes in it, and that was where I was at as a little boy. Probably should not have said that on YouTube, lol. Tom Cruise, The Last Samurai. Amazing film, really. One of Tom Cruise's, in my opinion, strongest performances. A lot of people forget that he's not just action guru guy. Granted, there's a lot of action in this. There's also a lot of emotional depth, and it really goes into showing the history behind this film pretty well. It's Hollywood, yes, but in a sense, it's still, and I think it's wonderful to see. The location in that is just beautiful and breathtaking. It really gives you a sense of the country. Russell Crowe's Gladiator, again, you can't beat it. A lot of people praise Joaquin Phoenix in this, and I think it's one of his best films, yes, but I don't think it holds a flame to, he did get robbed in the Oscar process for this, I will tell you that. But in terms of like Joker or The Master, I don't think it really holds a flame to it, but it's still amazing. Up next, we have The Doors, which is a biopic on the famous, The Doors. Val Kilmer jumping in there as our lead role. Jim Morrison, R.I.P. My friend, you live life to the very end, and that's all there is to say. I wasn't even around for that time period, and I love the music. And one of the biggest reasons why I personally got in the entertainment industry, James Dean, one of my favorite actors of all time. Really, it's all three of his films in one pack. You got Giant Rebel Without a Cause, and then East of Eden. Honestly, in the Book of East of Eden, check it out if you haven't. If you're a reader, it's absolutely wonderful. I have so many movies, y'all. I apologize for how long this video is going to be. Okay, got more Blu-rays. Up next, we have Filth with James McAvoy. This is on my top 20 favorite films list. Amazing movie. It's really dark. It's dark comedy at its finest, but it takes place in Scotland, dirty cop kind of film. Wonderful movie. Really proves how good of an actor James McAvoy is. Also on my top 20 favorite, actually a lot of these movies are on my top 20 favorite film list. The Assassination of Jesse James by outlaw, or by coward Robert Ford, sorry. Longest title ever for a film. I wish they'd narrowed that down, but one of Casey Affleck's best performances, and Brad Pitt is also fantastic in this movie, so check it out if you like a good Western and if you like history of any kind. It's a sad film, but it does give you a lot of really good history. And I know the film did its best to target actual events, so that was nice for a change. The Curious Case of Benjamin Button was based on the short story written by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Fun fact, I think the actual film is better than the short story. I've read and watched both, so that's just my humble opinion, which is weird. I'm going to see that with the source material being outshined by the actual film. But yeah, honestly, this film breaks your heart every time you watch it. I have not seen a movie yet. This is my number 2 film, my number 2 favorite film of all time, now that I think about it. But honestly, you can't go wrong. If you love life, you will love this movie. Up next, we have Her, starring Joaquin Phoenix. If you can't tell, I'm a Joaquin Phoenix fan. He's a unique individual, and I respect him for it. And I respect his talent as an artist. He's absolutely wonderful. Her as a Spike Jonze film. A lot of people, like, I hate talking about this movie because everybody's like, oh, is that the one about the man who falls in love with a robot? No. There's more than that, more to it. Just read through the synopsis you read on IMDb, please, because this movie is amazing. Another tearjerker. A lot of these are tearjerkers. Good God, I'm a sad individual. Not really. I'm actually quite charming. I'm kidding. I'm also really tired. A Star is Born. Bradley Cooper, Lady Gaga. This is what, the third or fourth remake of this film? And I think my favorite out of all the remakes. Bradley Cooper, as a first-time director, does things that I've never seen most new-time directors do. Camera work in particular, phenomenal. The use of sound in this movie is amazing, and also the chemistry between these two is undeniable. That's what sells the film, is the chemistry between them, and they're just, you cannot beat that movie. It's, oh my God, it's another level. Revolutionary Road, Leonardo DiCaprio, Kate Winslet. Now, I don't know if any of you know or have seen the movie Marriage Story on Netflix. I call Marriage Story Revolutionary Road before Marriage Story. Same vibe, same kind of drama, gritty, dealing with relationship. A lot of top-notch performances as a whole. And again, it works because of their chemistry, which in real life, they're best friends, so that kind of makes sense. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I love the writing of this movie. It's nonstop, silly, dark comedy, but at the same time, I love the writing. There's in particular spot where, I don't know, talking about the movement of peace and love and freedom, and it's just so many themes in this movie, but they all encompass. They're amazing. And Johnny Depp is just he's top of his game in this movie. It's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I need to read the book on that, because I have not read it. Okay, we are coming up on Prometheus, which is technically a prequel to Ridley Scott's famous Alien series. I gotta tell you, visuals are stunning. Performances are not even that bad, but the writing is kind of lackluster all over the place. I will say Michael Fassbender's David saves this movie. Interesting. It's an interesting film. It's a little dark, not gonna lie, for science fiction, as like science fiction horror goes, but it's one of a kind, and I personally love the film. It's good. Up next, we want to have one of the greatest action films ever directed, Mad Max Fury Road. I'm never going to forget seeing this in theaters. This was such a wonderful time. I love the original Mad Max with Mel Gibson, just because they were unique and they took place in Australia, and a bunch of Australian muscle cars looking tricked out like Twisted Metal, if you know that reference. A great time. Love this film with a passion. And if you have this on Blu-ray or 4K of any kind, the visuals in this movie are amazing. It won, I think, 5 Oscars. And I know they're trying to make a trilogy, and Charlize Theron is at top of her game, and Tom Hardy's actually almost like his Max better than Mel Gibson, which was weird. Didn't expect that. Up next, we have, in my opinion, Marvel's epitome of The Dark Knight. I call this Marvel's Dark Knight because Marvel cannot get better than this movie, and that is Logan, Hugh Jackman's final outing as Wolverine. Takes place after the comic line Old Man Logan, one of the greatest comic quote films I've ever seen. It hurts you. I cried in the theaters like a baby when that came out. Wonderful film. Up next, we have another Scorsese flick. We have Goodfellas, which is wonderful and to the teeth. One of the greatest crime dramas ever made, in my opinion. You really can't beat it. De Niro, Pesci, Scorsese coming in, directing that drama again is amazing. Ray Liotta kind of I don't think he got outshined. I think he was one of the strongest performances in this movie, and he did not get an Oscar nomination, which is almost absurd. Pesci actually won for Best Supporting Actor, fun fact. Up next, we have Daniel Day-Lewis's Lincoln. Spielberg. It's just good old-fashioned Spielberg doing what he does best. My grandmother loves this film quite a bit. She actually introduced me to it. I never watched it in theaters. I love history, but not to the extent of my grandmother. But she introduced me to this, and I gotta tell you, like, wow. Especially dealing with the Civil War era. You don't normally get very many good Civil War flicks. I mean, you have Gettysburg and then Glory, with Matthew Broderick and Denzel Washington. But like, other than that, you don't normally get good films on the Civil War, which is kind of sad because it's a very tough topic to crack and watch. And I think if more directors got a hold of the material, they could do some good with it. Tom Cruise, Mission Impossible Fallout. I know this is the sixth entry in the series, and it is the best, in my opinion. And I don't normally buy top-notch action films like this. I normally go for the dramas and stuff that'll be timeless. But this is one of my favorite action films. The choreography is amazing. The soundtrack, they push it to the level, to the limits. And Tom Cruise's top form in this as an action star. It's honestly wonderful. Well, we got some horror films coming up, in particular Stephen King. Got Dr. Sleep. Mike Flanagan's the director of this. If you don't, those of you who don't know, Haunting of Hill House is one of my other favorite TV shows of all time. But the sequel to the Shining, which is my second favorite film. Long story short though, wonderful movie. Cinematography is amazing. This is the director's cut, which adds, like, I think it's a 3-hour film. There's a lot of heart to this movie that I love, and the visuals are just stunning. There is not a director out there who could have captured the book as well as Flanagan does in this film. The ending is a little strange, and it differs from the book a little bit, but I still think it was a strong film. The original Pet Sematary. What can I say? 30th anniversary edition. This movie traumatized me when I was growing up. It's another I love Stephen King. I'm a Stephen King junkie. You can thank my mother for that. But that movie is, that's rough. The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I have the a Steelbook limited edition. I had to buy it. I got it on Amazon. There's a deal. And I know, why would you buy it? But it was just one of those classics you had to own. Wonderful movie. It does a lot of classic B-movie horror stuff that I wish more films would do nowadays. I love a good slasher. Speaking of which, also have a collector's edition of the original Friday the 13th. Again, these are not amazing movies, but I love the nostalgia, even though I wasn't there for when the time period takes place. I still think they're amazing. I love Texas and Friday and all the original slashers. Freddy, you name it. I'm a lover of those films. Up next, I have The Collector, which I just watched today, and I gotta tell you, this movie's gory as hell, to put that in layman's terms. Wow, and fun fact, this was originally a Saw screenplay before they scrapped the idea, a sequel Saw screenplay before they scrapped the idea and just turned it into its own independent film. Fun fact, for those of you who don't know, dropping movies. The original Nightmare on Elm Street, because Robert Englund's Freddy Krueger is timeless, and for a fan of the slashers, is the greatest. Love it. You can't really say much about these classic horror 80s films. They're a really good genre. And 80s, the horror genre really took off and did its own thing and goofy, but also had fun. Fright Night is one of my favorites as well. I love that film. I love any kind of horror-esque. George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead. Now, I normally hate zombie films. I do. I think they're overdone and kind of lazy. The Walking Dead really burnt out on me. But in terms of going back in time to the original stuff, you can't beat its roots. Night of the Living Dead is again, a timeless movie. Crimson Peak, Guillermo del Toro. Visually stunning movie. He also did Shape of Water, which I own back here. Wonderful, wonderful movie. He really comes into his own here. Great film. I can't say much about it. If you can't tell, I like every movie I own because I bought it. So, throwing that out there. This one's an odd one. Sleepaway Camp, which was my mom's one of her favorites back in the day. And the ending is beyond shocking, and if you know what I mean. I watched there's a lot of these, but I watched the first 3. They're terrible. That's the point. But it's a popcorn Halloween movie and gory if you want to enjoy that. But yes, Sleepaway Camp. And then, of course, Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. And if you haven't seen Ash vs. the Evil Dead or Army of Darkness, which I don't own, I need to own Army of Darkness and Ash vs. Evil Dead, honestly. I love these movies. They're so much fun. I mean, Bruce Campbell, you can't beat it. Just good old-fashioned goofy horror, classic Sam Raimi territory. I'm looking forward to his Dr. Sleep Multiverse of Madness he's doing. So yeah, I need to speed this up just a tad. We are at 23 minutes, good lord. Okay, let's just get into it. So these next films coming up, a couple of them are older. My girlfriend got these for me for my birthday. A couple classic shocker horror films. She knows I like old black and white films. I've not seen these at all. We're planning on a movie night. Dead of Night, haven't seen it, gonna check it out. Apparently it's PG, but I'm really looking forward to it. It's English cinema. Don't know anything about it, but gonna watch it. A little odd. I love silent films. Odd fact, it doesn't seem like it, but one in particular, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Wonderful film. Yes, do not watch it when you are possibly drunk. It is a scary, scary, scary time. Carnival of Souls. She got this for me because she loved the artwork, and I do too. If I had a poster of that, I would kill for it. I might try and find a giant poster of that because that's beautiful. I love the colors and artwork. I've never seen that film either. It just looks interesting to me. Ooh, Return of the Living Dead Brains. If any of you have not seen this film, it's so over the top and gory and fun. I just love it. I want all of it. Just a good time. I have the Frankenstein. For those of you who don't know, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is one of my favorite books of all time, but the movie itself is just so good, so good. The original black and white, you know, monster flicks. I can't get enough of them. Speaking of which, we have Bram Stoker's Dracula. I couldn't say it right. Yeah, I had the chance of playing this individual on the stage at one time, and it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. It was truly, again, black and white, classic monster movie stuff. Love it to death. Can't get enough. I also have Gary Oldman's edition of Dracula, Francis Ford Coppola's direction on that. Keanu Reeves is a little lackluster. I will never dog Keanu Reeves because he's such a pure human being, but, you know, he's a little weird in that. Stephen King's Creepshow, kind of a comic book anthology series. You know, different tales for each chapter kind of story. Wow, good stuff, good stuff. Love it, love it. And right now I have It. I have both. I have the quote-unquote mini-series that came out in the 90s, and I have the remake that came out a couple years back. The sequel to that kind of rubbed me wrong a little bit. It has good moments, not fantastic. I don't have the sequel, but the first I loved. I love the first of it. I actually got a Pennywise collector's edition back there. But I got to tell you, Bill Skarsgård compared to Tim Curry, I don't know who's better. It's almost like comparing Ledger and Jack Nicholson's Joker. You can't really do it. It would do a disservice to both actors because they're both phenomenal performances. Honestly, they both make their respective films, in my opinion. Up next, we have Robert Eggers' The Witch. Nothing to say about it other than it's one of the greatest horror films ever. I love the director. He's coming up with a new one soon. Can't wait to check it out. He's the same one who directed The Lighthouse. Up next, we have American Psycho, which at a time, I think this is still on my top 10. It's on my top 20 favorite film list. Christian Bale can really do no wrong in that movie. I have to tell you, he's absolutely wonderful. Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. Of course, I own it. I, at one point in time, made the mistake of trying to compare his Joker to Ledger's, which that is one of my idols. I love the character. It got me through so much. But yeah, watched that movie 5 times in theaters. Collectively paid $27 for that. I'm not mad about it. I have the Ultimate Edition of Zack Snyder's Batman vs. Superman, which is technically the sequel to Man of Steel. I don't own Man of Steel, I need to. But a lot of people dog on Zack Snyder's DCU. If you watch Zack Snyder's Justice League, which I need to buy, amazing. I love his visuals and the fact that his films look like comic books, and I think that Ben Affleck's Batman is honestly the best live-action Batman we've got. That's my humble opinion. The warehouse scene in particular, the fighting, was... That's the best Batman. Like, you can't get any more Batman. That made me happy. It reminded me of the Arkham games. It was beautiful. You also get Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, which is great, and of course Henry Cavill's Superman is just way back to Christopher Reeves. I mean, he's Superman in my opinion. He's absolutely wonderful. And of course, the Dark Knight trilogy, because where would I be in this world if I did not own this trilogy? Wonderful, wonderful series. Love it to death. Batman: The Killing Joke, the animated movie. I picked this up because I thought it'd be good, and then I watched it, and they tacked on this whole 30-minute Batwoman story arc, which they had to make a feature film, so I get it, but at the same time, it's like, it doesn't really hold a candle to the original graphic novel, but still, it's worth checking out if you want to see Mark Hamill voice the iconic lines that The Killing Joke wrote. When it actually gets to killing joking, it's pretty good. Wow, that was weird. I have all 4 of the original Batman before, Christopher Nolan's trilogy. I got Batman Returns, and the atrocious Joel Schumacher films that he directed. Batman Raw, Batman Forever, which is the only really good part. I like Val Kilmer's Batman. I thought his voice was good. Chris O'Donnell tried, didn't he? But Jim Carrey as the Riddler was the best part of the movie to me. He's just Jim Carrey. Just Jim Carrey doing Jim Carrey. I thought that was great. I'm excited to see Michael Keaton's Batman come back in the Flash movie. Up next, we have Watchmen, which in my opinion is one of the greatest comic book movies ever made. Really, Zack Snyder really holds a flame. It's kind of like 300, how it's shot, and it's like comic book to screen. It's beautiful. I love it to death. Really dark film, though, if you're not a fan of the dark stuff. Up next, of course, I have the Lord of the Rings trilogy. You have a Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and Return of the King. I would not know anything about these movies had it not been for my grandma taking my brother and I to see these back in the day. And that's a lot of these films that branch back from the movies, so I had to buy them and own them. Really, what can it be said? At the time of its release, when Return of the King came out, I think it's held the record. I think it won 11 Oscars. Check me on that. But it was still, this trilogy was like Star Wars for medieval times. It was, holy Jesus. Nobody could have thought that this would be as big as it did. I mean, Peter Jackson came in and tried to recapture that with the Hobbit trilogy, which I enjoyed the visuals and I enjoyed what they were trying to do. I just didn't think they were as good, of course, as Lord of the Rings. Okay, and of course I have to own Game of Thrones. Not season 8, by the way. I own seasons 1 through 6 and season 7. Now, I gotta tell you, when I bought season 1 through 6, that was originally a birthday present for my brother, but I kind of robbed it back because that's just, I sound terrible, but I love the series up until season 8. I gotta tell you, I went back and rewatched one of my old videos. Season 7's a little lackluster as well. The writing's a little, it's fine. Whatever. Season 1 through 6 are still peak television. I gotta tell you, season 8, after going back and rewatching my video on my review on it, and then going back into it, I'm like, season 8 kind of sucked. It kind of sucked terribly, I gotta tell you. And I'm sorry for those of you who I told that it was pretty good. Okay, up next we have Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hardy's The Revenant. Fun fact, Alejandro Inarritu, the director, also did Birdman with Michael Keaton while this film was delayed. Both these films are Oscar winners. Fun fact, now that's talent. Really, I don't think DiCaprio should have won his Oscar for that. He should have won it years and years back with What's Eating Gilbert Grape. Wonderful actor, as we all know. Truly, truly amazing. The Revenant is a good time. Visually stunning. I remember seeing it in theaters and it just kind of broke me. Love the movie. Love how it was shot in natural light too. That is just super hard to do, and kudos to the team behind that. Baby Driver, which is on my top 20 favorite films list, fun fact. I love the use of the soundtrack, and Edgar Wright really captures just the story in this. I love it. The only annoying part I had in this was Jamie Foxx. Not that I find him annoying as an actor. I kind of do. I think his Django and Ray Charles were beautiful. Loved it. But as Jamie Foxx, I don't know. It just kind of threw me off. Threw me for a loop. But Baby Driver is one of a kind and a beautiful film to watch. Up next, we have No Country for Old Men, which is in my top 10 favorite film list. This movie, holy hell. You can't beat it. You really can't. My dad is a big fan of this one. They don't use a soundtrack, which is amazing. And I mean, Javier Bardem as Anton Chigurh, he earned the supporting actor Oscar for that. There's not really a movie like it. It's one of a kind. It's absolutely stunning. And fun fact about that, Anton, there was a psychiatric evaluation, and a group of psychologists came together and determined out of the 100 greatest psychopaths, Javier Bardem's Anton Chigurh is the most realistic psychopath put to film. Fun fact if you didn't know it. We have another Coen Brothers film, The Big Lebowski, which is one of the greatest comedies ever made, in my opinion. I wish we could all strive to be like the dude, because the dude knows what the dude knows, which is the dude knows. That's how the movie feels. There's really not much of a plot. It's just nonsense. And John Goodman, Jeff Bridges, you can't really go wrong with it. It's such a fun movie. Check it out, please. It makes you laugh. I mean, in today's world, that's okay with me. Up next, we have the Safdie Brothers Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler. Gotta tell you, when I first watched this movie, it is a high-octane mental breakdown to watch. Not my favorite film by the Safdie brothers, fun fact. If you not watch Good Times with Robert Pattinson, I think it's on Netflix right now. That is their best film in my opinion. But at the same time, you can't really compare the two because they're very different. They're both high-stress films, but they're all very unique in the lighting and their detail and their storytelling. Just beautiful. Really good directors. But Adam Sandler in this, top game. I believe this is the best performance of his career in my opinion. Just a wonderful film. Up next, we have Public Enemies with Johnny Depp. I've said it once, to say it again. This gangster is from my hometown. I was raised and born on a farm in Mooresville, Indiana. Just quoted the film for those of you who don't know. But great movie, especially if you like a good history, especially Prohibition. just in that time period, 1930s-esque. Just wonderful, wonderful film to check out. Up next, we have Shape of Water. My girlfriend despises this film. I love it for the love story aspect. I know everybody's like, oh, it's a girl falling in love with the fish man, but the visuals and the poetry behind it. Guillermo del Toro, same man who did Crimson Peak and Pan's Labyrinth, is a heartbreaking film, but check it out if you haven't. Wonderful movie. Loved it to death. I did. So another little collection here. We got Kong, Skull Island, and Godzilla. I will say Kong, Skull Island was weird to check out. King Kong versus Godzilla was a fun film, and I know they set it up. It's nonsense. These were not like monster nonsense, which is the way they should be. That's what they should be. This Godzilla, I got to tell you though, watching it in theaters with my dad when it first came back out, whew, what a ride! What a ride! Loved it. Loved it. Loved it. Loved it. One of the I don't want to say accurate, most accurate space films I've ever seen, but in terms of aerospace in general, if you're a big fan of it, check out First Man. It's about the moon landing. Really interesting film. It's from the same director who directed La La Land, which is just, holy Jesus, will break your heart. Great film. I gotta tell you, just interesting to watch. Watched it in IMAX on the big screen. That gave me a heart attack. Up next, we have Christopher Nolan's Interstellar. One of my personal favorite Nolan films. I just recently watched Tenet for the first time. Wow. But in terms of like his best work, I think Interstellar is one of his greatest. And Hans Zimmer, his soundtrack in this is the best Hans Zimmer has ever done, in my opinion. Can't go wrong. I listen to it when I write. Okay, we are still on the science fiction trail. Yeah, we're coming up. Cool. We're doing this. Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049. Ridley Scott is a hero in his own right for what he does. I believe the man can normally do no wrong when it comes to science fiction. Prometheus and Alien Covenant, I'm talking to you. But Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049. Blade Runner 2049 is that rare occurrence when a film is rebooted or a sequel is being made to it years down the road, and it excels and sometimes almost exceeds the first. Now, I will tell you, in terms of the greatest monologue ever put to film, Rutger Hauer's monologue at the end of this film, Tears in the Rain, if you know what I'm saying, you can YouTube it. Just YouTube Blade Runner monologue, it'll come up. One of the greatest monologues put to film, and it is amazing. These films are truly wonderful. This film was, I love the visuals in this. From the same director who did Prisoners and Sicario, Denis Villeneuve. He's also doing the new Dune movie coming out with Timothée Chalamet. I'll check that out. I'll get back to you on that. Up next, we have Alien and Aliens. Which one do I like better? Of course, the original Ridley Scott's horror in space. You know, in space, no one can hear you scream. Also, in the video game world, Alien Isolation is one of a kind. Wonderful game. Check it out if you can. But Aliens is good. James Cameron got a hold of it. Which James Cameron's a world-renowned director. He added a lot of action into it, which I'm okay with. But at the same time, I like the suspenseful thriller horror-esque a little bit more than action, in my opinion. I think it just works better for screen. But yeah, you can't beat it. Good stuff. Good classic, you know, good classic science fiction back in the day. Speaking of more science fiction, because we're on that train, I have the quote-unquote Jurassic Park trilogy. Now, I don't really like to think of these series as a trilogy because, you know, the Jurassic World series coming out. I just like to, you know, put the original Jurassic Park into perspective because it's, of course, the greatest. And Steven Spielberg, what he has done for film, in terms of what he has done for the film genre with this movie in particular, and moving forward with its use of CGI and a soundtrack, is just... Can we just tip our hats to the man already? He's, without a doubt, one of the greatest directors ever to put to film, so I respect him. He's not my top number one favorite director, but he is by far one of the greatest ever, like, put to date. But yeah, the Jurassic Park trilogy, in my opinion. Jurassic World 1 was cool, but they kind of copy-pasted the first one, kind of like Force Awakens did, speaking of Force Awakens. Okay. We have the original Star Wars trilogy on DVD. You know, the Luke Skywalker original, the Return of the Jedi, the entire real Star Wars story. Hold that thought. I have my Star Wars opinions, of course, because it was my childhood. Best movie in the trilogy? You guessed it, Empire, in my opinion. We can't really review Star Wars enough, can we? I also have the prequel trilogy, Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith. I have the Collector's Steelbook edition of Revenge of the Sith because I have to tell you, in terms of my favorite Star Wars film of all time, Revenge of the Sith, because as a kid growing up in 2005, sitting in the theater and watching Hayden Christensen's Anakin Skywalker finally turn into Darth Vader, one of the greatest, if not the greatest movie villain of all time, I couldn't get that memory back as a kid. I'm gonna thank my dad for taking me to that one. That was something. That was truly an experience. But yes, Star Wars: Revenge of the Sith, my favorite Star Wars film, personally speaking. And then we have these two movies: Star Wars: The Force Awakens, and Star Wars: The Last Jedi. I didn't buy Rise of Skywalker. Why didn't I buy Rise of Skywalker? Why didn't I buy Rise of Skywalker, everybody? Because it's hot garbage. It's clustered around melodramatic garbage. And I gotta tell you, the actors are not the problem in these movies. It's the company behind the movies that's the issue. I gotta tell you, that's what happens when you buy a product and you go and you wanna push the product to the public without having a complete story typed out. I have to tell you. There's some good in these films, I'm not going to tell you, but as a diehard Star Wars fan, I tend to retcon this, and I don't believe I don't think this ever happened, because it completely shoots down the Anakin Skywalker arc, aka Return of the Jedi, aka Return of it. I have strong opinions about this, if you cannot tell. But yeah, I mean, there's some good in these. Here and there, I don't remember much good in these. I own the movies. I can't believe I bought The Last Jedi. I can't believe I bought Force Awakens. Really, I think my dad picked up Force. I think my dad picked up both of these. I will tell you though. Okay, I'll give you a good thing about this. So something about these films that I love, good or bad, is the fact that I get to go to the movie theater and watch them with my dad. That's something big that we do. We tend to, any Star Wars film, like new release in general. We didn't see Solo together, but we saw Rogue One. Of course, the entire new trilogy. Any Star Wars film I've seen in theaters, other than Solo, I've seen with my dad, because he introduced me to it growing up. Like, that was his thing as a kid growing up, and now that was my thing growing up. I was a nerd growing up, and I was cultured. Fun fact. But I got to tell you that can't get those memories. Those memories can't be any better. Yeah, that absolutely wonderful. Yeah, it's Star Wars. I mean, it can suck, but at the same time, we're talking about a galaxy where there's a giant, hairy Sasquatch man that makes noises, and we have lightsabers and space wizards, and we're all complaining because it's not good. I sound like a hypocrite because I just ripped on the new trilogy. But what can I say? It's okay. I'll be all right. I'll stop complaining. I was trying to bring some sentiment to my rant. Okay. Up next, we have Robert Rodriguez's Once Upon a Time in Mexico. This is kind of that over-the-top grindhouse grunge style of a film. Antonio Banderas, Johnny Depp, Penelope Cruz, right? Yep. Salma Hayek. Sorry. I thought Penelope Cruz was in one of these animes. William Dafoe's in this. Good lord, I haven't seen this in years, but it's a good time. If you like his style of directing, kind of that over-the-top. I can't really explain it. It's unique. It kind of has some Tarantino vibes, I'm not going to lie. They kind of feed off of each other. Up next, we have Robert Rodriguez's Sin City, which I love this movie. I even like the sequel to this, I'm not going to lie. It's a Frank Miller graphic novel adapted to screen. Kind of fits into that Zack Snyder verse of like comic book to screen. I love it. I do. I think it's interesting. I do. I love the artwork. If I could get a couple posters of this one, I would. Just a good movie. I'm sad I didn't get to see that one in theaters, actually. Ooh. And now, we have my favorite director. Ha ha ha. Reservoir Dogs, Quentin Tarantino. What can I say? I absolutely love it. My favorite director today. Reservoir Dogs is his start, and I think was kind of overlooked a lot. One of his best films, in my opinion. Pulp Fiction. I know you can't tell, but I have a full-size poster of this on my door to my right. Yeah. Is it his best film in the entire bunch? I'd like to think so. I think it's the most well-rounded in Tarantino film. I love it to death. Of course, Kill Bill 1 and 2. Got them right there. Love them to death. Again, Tarantino. I can't really review any of these movies because everybody knows everything there is to know about these movies, but I love them. Inglourious Bastards. I think that's his best written film, personally speaking. Django Unchained. Again, you just can't really beat it. I love the dialogue, love the actors, love the violence. Hateful Eight, which is probably everybody's least. I don't have Jackie Brown, by the way. The Hateful Eight is probably everybody's least favorite film of his. I know maybe Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is coming up next. I love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I think it's a wonderful time. But yeah, you know, a lot of people hated on Hateful Eight. I don't know why. I kind of enjoy the whodunit aspect of a Western genre, which is what Tarantino does pretty well. Okay, we are at the end of this, folks, and we are pushing an hour on this video. So, I love John Carpenter. I love him to death. I don't have They Live, which is unfortunate, but I have John Carpenter's The Thing, the original. Kurt Russell, you can't really beat it. I gotta tell you, the visuals in this movie to this day are disturbing and fun because it's that gelatin, goo kind of thing. But John Carpenter's The Thing is one to love. Up next, we have the 2018 remake of Halloween. Now, the Michael Myers genre has kind of been overdone, but in terms of slashers, he's my favorite. Especially the original film. I think it's special and does its own thing. But yeah, 2018 Halloween, I saw it in theaters, and there's a tracking shot in this film that is the best I've seen Michael Myers be since way back when, in 1978, when the original came out. We have Rob Zombie's remake of Halloween. I have every Halloween film coming up that are my favorite in the series. But yeah, Rob Zombie's Halloween. I appreciated his gritty look at the Rob Zombie world. I like Rob Zombie sometime as a director. House of a Thousand Corpses. I mean, he does some decent stuff. Devil's Rejects is kind of good too. I mean, it's over the top, it's redneck trash, but at the same time, it's like, I think it works. I think it worked for the character. And I like how it tried to humanize Michael Myers. Who would have thought that actually might work? Up next, we have John Carpenter's, is that John Carpenter? Yeah, Halloween 2, the sequel that technically takes place after the original film, but you know they retconned that with the new 2018 remake, and it's just a clustered mess. But at the same time, I love the continuation of the story. I like Michael Myers. He's a spooky individual. And of course, to end this entire collection, the original John Carpenter 1978 classic Halloween, which in my day is the greatest slasher ever made. You can't beat it. It is one of a kind, wonderful film. Dark, gritty, soundtrack's wonderful. I kind of want to watch this now. I always say that in my videos, but yeah, can't really beat it. One of a kind. So yeah, everybody, that I'm gonna stop talking now because I'm tired. But that is going to wrap it up for this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. And as always, I will see you again in the next one.